All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Thanks But No One Asked You podcast, where storytelling meets unsolicited advice. I'm your host, Britt Hunter, and this is the first time that I am actually doing an interview virtually. So please welcome my guests, Chris and Michael. Please give them a round of applause. Okay. I've never done this before, so I'm just gonna have you guys introduce yourselves and we're gonna jump right in. So Chris Blackett, fun fact, y'all. Chris and I used to work in the same school in Harlem. He was a kindergarten and a pre-K teacher, guys. Okay, Chris, introduce yourself.
Yeah, those were the good old days. I am Chris. I have co-founded Talent Lab with Michael, and I'll let him talk more about that. But I am currently an executive director of go-to-market at Amplify Education, which is one of the largest K-12 edtech companies out there.
Ooh, okay. The kids are doing this. Clocked it.
Yeah.
How you doing, everyone? My name is Michael Opong. I'm currently the Director of Alumni Success at the Marcy Lab School. Marcy Lab's mission is to empower young people to get into the tech industry. And so I work with our alumni to support them in getting into jobs in software engineering and data analytics. And I'm also a co-founder at Talent Lab Solutions. Chris and I started Talent Labs 2 years ago, actually, with a mission to really build a community of learners focused on education, technology, workforce development, and equity. Because it's something that's so dear to our hearts. I used to be a teacher as well. I taught in my hometown of Newark, New Jersey. Shout out to Newark, New Jersey. And I've been in the space for about, over a decade. So really excited to be here, Britt.
All right. Now, when you say, is it Newark? Are you saying Newark?
Yeah, Newark.
Okay. Newark, New Jersey. I was
Exactly.
like, Newark,
my
New
accent's
Jersey?
coming
New
through.
York accent.
Like Newark?
Yeah.
All right, all former educators, this is going to be super helpful for those of my listeners who are my special niche, which is 14 through 24-year-olds. And so I'm always trying to make sure that they have information because I'm noticing the kids are going to the interwebs, and the interwebs kind of suck sometimes. I feel like people are lying to them and gaslighting them and telling them, you got to get rich quick and do it like this, do it like that. And I really just want normal people to share their experience. But before we can get into the boring part, we have to do hot seat, which is my favorite part. So these are just going to be questions that I asked you, and this is just to get to know you a little bit more. So first things first, what's something
Sorry, my charger came out.
Right on the hot seat.
very, very interesting that you would leave at this moment?
Right? Yeah.
Okay,
I think he was
okay.
My seat got too hot,
Okay, I
Yeah.
feel you. Okay. What's something, you guys have known each other for how long?
Since 2010,
Yeah, I have to
11.
do the math.
Oh, okay. So that's almost 15 years.
Yeah, wow.
If not, I think it is 15 years. Wow, Jesus. What's something you have always wanted to know about the other person, but have never asked?
Yeah.
Wow.
This is your opportunity, guys. I am your conduit.
I feel like I need to think about this because Michael and I are kind of open books.
However,
Yeah, I could start, I guess. I think one of the things that amazes me about Chris is that he taught younger folks. I taught ninth graders and high school students, so I have no experience with that demographic. So I just want to know how he did it. Right? I don't know how he would keep. I would keep up the energy to teach these folks and grow these young folks. What are some strategies and what goes into teaching a younger demographic?
Well, it's funny because I could never do what Michael did, which is teach older kids. So I like teaching younger kids because they're shorter than me. So I'm 5'8", so I'm short. So I would be intimidated. I don't think my classroom management could have worked. But I found it easier to just be myself around younger kids because I didn't have to worry as much about classroom management, which came harder to me, right? Because I think when you are a teacher, it pays to be much more strict at the start of the year and then take your pedal off as the year goes on and you have routines and relationships. And I'm a softie. I cannot do that.
you are.
Yeah. Even though Michael and I have known each other for so long, I would say that I've gotten to know much more about Michael's own personal background as we've started Talent Lab. and especially like the opportunities that helped you, Michael, get out of sort of like the Newark public school system. And I actually am curious, Michael went to like a Quaker school through, what was the program that you had gone through, Michael?
I'm sorry, you went through a Quaker school?
You went through a Quaker school, but it was through kind of like a program. I'll let you talk about it, and then I have a question, which is how you found out about that like scholarship sort of program and how you know, because that was a really pivotal moment in your life. And so I was just curious how you found out about that. But yeah, I'll let you take the story.
Yeah, so to give some background, my parents immigrated here from Ghana. And they left their friends, their family, their life, essentially, to come to America to pursue the American dream, essentially. And so, we grew up, with not much money, and, some the housing projects in Newark, New Jersey, right? And so I remember in 7th grade, I went to a Catholic school growing up, actually. And so one of my teachers came up to me and they recommended this program called New Jersey Seeds. So New Jersey Seeds is a program focused on helping people from low-income backgrounds with high potential access independent high schools.
Okay.
Yeah. I was able to apply to the program, get into the program, and make it through the program, which had 3 different phases where they cut people at every phase, and I made it through the program. It gave me the opportunity to go to George School, which is in Newtown, Pennsylvania. It's a Quaker boarding school.
Wow.
First exposure to Quakerism. It was my first exposure to a lot of things, if you want to get into that. But I really enjoyed it, and I really loved the time I had at George School. I sent my kids there, and I miss it so much. Definitely some of the most formative times of my life.
Yeah, but I think the thing that I'm really interested about is you have these programs like Posse Foundation, right? Which I think is sort of the comp in New York City, and how you found out about New Jersey Seeds.
Yeah, I think they have partnerships with different schools in the area, right? And so through those partnerships with different schools, they're able to access top, let's call it top talent from these middle schools. And so, certain teachers recommend certain students based on a number of factors. And I happened to have the opportunity that someone kind of looked out for me and invested in me and saw potential in me. And, I kind of did some of the work to apply and submit all the forms. My parents, immigrants, so they like translating all these forms. They, they both speak English, but, some of these forms are nuts, even for native English speakers. So, I took that opportunity and kind of ran with it.
Wow. Okay, that's crazy. You guys are both on like opposite ends of the spectrum. Because Chris, I've been to your house.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't know that apartments in New York took up floors. Like, I didn't even know this was a thing. And then, Michael, you're an immigrant. And so that's crazy. I love that, though, because I tell this to people all the time. It's like my friends are very, very diverse. And it's important that they're diverse. It's important that people don't look like you. It's important that they don't come from places that you come from, because once you get past that, you have way more in common. But I love that for y'all. Okay, who fixed that?
That was, I just muted my camera and now unmuted. But what was
it's space?
Yeah.
I was like, hopefully that shuts down.
But now it's not here, so I'm not sure if it was. I hope that the listeners didn't have
I feel like they probably did.
Should we run it back?
We can.
No, it's your pod.
I don't care. There will be captions. Let's try the next question. Okay. You guys both work in edtech. What is the most overused buzzword in edtech? Like, if one more person says this, I'm really going to throw the laptop through the window.
I mean, right now, it's just AI tutor. Yeah. It's the biggest buzzword in edtech. One of the folks that we really admire a lot, Dan Myers, writes about this all the time. And, this belief that AI tutor is going to, like, solve education is so completely false. And so that's the biggest buzzword.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chris, is that the same buzzword for you?
Yeah, I mean, somewhat relatedly, I think a thing that I'm getting sick of is the, like, micro school movement. Yeah, And I think it's like you have 2 hour learning and sort of these also kind of AI based micro schools, but it's really just rich people building an alternative to public education. And I think that's something I'm sort of sick of.
Huh.
We'll be stuck with it for a while though, but
Yeah. Micro schools. I'm actually just now learning about micro schools. And the way it was positioned to me was parents after the pandemic were kind of like, it was chaos. My kids weren't happy being in school. There's cyberbullying, da 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 da, and they felt like their kids are safer. And so what you're saying is micro schools aren't really equitable.
I think it's the same. We taught at a charter school, Britt
Yeah.
and and I think it's sort of similar where I think they serve really well the population of students who are pulled into them, but their impact on sort of the system of education might be more divisive, right? Like
Mhm.
they're pulling students from school systems, which causes enrollments to decline, which means that funding drops, and public
Right.
schools already have lower fundings. And then micro schools, I mean, some of them 2 hour learning is sort of the big network right now. It's $40,000 a year. It's sort of
For
just
what?
2 hour learning. So this is like one of the big micro school movements out there.
Cost $40,000
$40,000 a
a
year.
car. Okay,
That's
I don't have
yeah.
kids. I can't talk about it. I don't have
I think
kids.
some micro schools for sure are more affordable, but you see a lot of, I mean, like every Silicon Valley billionaire is sending their kids into a micro school right now. I think Mark Zuckerberg just got dinged because he had set up an illegal micro school on his property.
Really? What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Did he get a fine? I'm sure he had a trouble
I'm
paying.
sure the fine meant nothing.
Jeez. All right. Well, both of you work with, and we all have actually worked with, Michael, what you call underestimated youth, which I love that term. When you said it in our pre-calls, like underestimated youth, that's exactly how I felt about my students. It's also how I felt about myself and the kids I went to high school with. What is one thing that underestimated youth always, always bring to the table across the board?
Yeah, I think a few. Yeah, if I have to choose one, I would say resilience. Right, these folks have been through a lot. Even thinking about myself and many of the folks I work with now is just one small example is just like having to translate documents for their parents. Right, all these
Mm-hmm.
forms that whether it be the FAFSA or tax forms or whatever it may be. You have to kind of serve as a leader and step up in many ways that other folks may not have to step up as, right? Some of my peers that I met in school, like their parents took care of everything for them, right? All they had to do
Chris is like,
all they had to do is focus on school, right? Whereas others had to come home, cook dinner,
yeah,
do all the things that are sometimes taken care of by other people in their life. And so that builds leadership, that builds ownership, that builds resilience. And so that's what they definitely bring to the table amongst many other things.
Chris, what you got?
You are muted.
Chris, you're muted.
I respectfully stepped out of this conversation.
No, we need to hear from you. You've worked with underestimated students.
Yeah. I think as someone who came from like a privileged background, I didn't realize fully at the time the importance of, like for underestimated youth, it's really just about seeing what they can be and like the possibilities open to them. And I think that sort of exposure, just checking to see if it was my mic, but it's not my mic anymore, making that sound. It's exposure to the possibilities for them, right? Like it is access both to high quality education, but also access to those career paths. And so I think underestimated youth are often underestimated because they don't always see those, like the possibilities that they could be, right? Like the types of careers that they see people who look like them or who have the same religious beliefs, etc. Like the exposure of careers is limited, and I think opening that aperture is really important.
Yeah, we figured it out. Michael, it's your microphone. I muted
Really?
you. Yeah, because I muted you and it was like crystal clear. See?
I think it's going
Gone.
away.
It's gone. I just
You
muted him again.
backstory.
I'll unmute you again. Don't worry. Oh, okay. So yeah, so I love that. So one of the things that I noticed about my students and even about myself, there is like so much more personality in underestimated youth. And I
Hmm.
don't know if it's because like sometimes a lack of structure, sometimes it's so much more on their plate. I don't know, but I find that that population is, if they're challenging, it's usually because they have really big personality and they're looking for somebody to help them funnel that energy into something else. And so they don't sound or look the same when they're struggling with something. They don't sound or look the same when they're celebrating something. They have this very different way of operating. And I noticed it the most when we took over Harlem 1, which was a turnaround school. We left Harlem 4, which was very calm, very pristine, and we went to Harlem 1, and we were like trying to rein the kids in. The kids have been running the school for years. You could tell they had been cussing teachers out. Parents had been cussing teachers out. Suspension rates were extremely high. But then when we finally were able to like get them to a place where they could follow just some basic directions, their personalities were still there. And I was like, y'all are actually more fun than this other group who does everything you say. You know, they're very robotic in that way. But these kids were like, they had been running the roost. So when we finally were able to find that balance, I was like, I really like y'all because you're very expressive. You know, it's not, you don't express yourself in a way we need you to express yourself, but I've learned that I'd rather like tame a kid and bring them down a little bit more than try to pull out personality. Like I'd rather get the rambunctious kid and try to mold them into something than get the kid who's like, I'll do everything that you say. Like, nah, man, break a couple rules, man, break a couple rules. Don't get suspended, but let's break a couple rules.
Not too many, not too many.
Yeah, then not on Friday. I had a rule about that. Don't piss me off on Friday because all weekend you on my mind. All right, let's get into some actual conversation questions. So, Michael, your group, you guys design programming for young people. I have seen this in practice. I have done it. I've watched it happen really well. Watched it happen really poorly. What is something that you think people get wrong about designing programs for youth?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. One thing that is essential to the success of the Marcy Lab School and that it does so well is community building, right? That is such a huge focus at the organization, and it's so important. The work that we're doing, the work that our students are doing is really hard. They're trying to become software engineers, right?
Mhm.
People go to school for 4 years to do this, and people start even earlier than that. And so having a community of support and a community of peers to support you as you go through this very challenging, difficult, rigorous experience is essential to success. And it makes the experience better for everyone, right? And it will be important and is important as you go on into your career to have a community of supporters and a community you can count on to help you sustain your success and kind of reach your goals. Another thing that's really important is
Before you share, give us an example of something you do to build community, because everybody says it, but what's one thing that y'all do differently?
yeah, I think yeah, I'll answer that question. The answer to that question is there's not one thing, right? It is an amalgamation of decisions and events and the way we act with each other that helps to build community, right? The fact that our CEO Ruben and Maya will stop everything they're doing and just talk to a student who's walking down the hallway is like part of it. We have our characters of pillars of character, that we highlight: bold determination, ingenious curiosity, things that we want to highlight for our students and characters that we want them to build and thrive on. That contributes to this. We have events, we have Thanksgiving together, we have Super Bowl parties together, right? Things that you would do with your family, things that you would do with your community. We hold space for that and we emphasize it, right? It's not just a thing that we check off, right? We want to build community. So that's one thing that's incredibly important. And additionally to that, I think we know that to build someone into, someone who will be successful in these type of industries, we need to focus on a lot of things outside the technical skills, right? And so there's a lot of focus on what it looks like to be a leader, what it looks like to be a leader of color, right? Or a woman leader, right? And so teaching people how to embrace their identity that, they may, feel imposter syndrome about, and use that as a lever to their success is something that's important in the way we design and we run our programs.
Very cool. And so, Chris, over to you. What are something ed tech companies you wish that they understood more about teachers? Mute.
I always appreciate when edtech companies hire or are run by like former educators because
Right.
they understand it. I think one of the things, there are a few companies I love that what they do is they sort of acknowledge that most of the brilliance in the classroom actually lives with students.
Yes, I love that.
Products that they build actually try and facilitate student discourse or highlight student thinking. And so that's something we try and do at Amplify is like celebrate student thinking, and a lot of our products and curriculum try and use technology to do that. There's a company called TeachFX where they like use AI to measure how much conversation in a class is the teacher classroom to try and shift it to be, instead of a teacher going up and lecturing,
Yeah.
very boring, to like making it actually like 70% student discourse, which is something that we kind of did at Success Academy too, right? Like
Yeah.
student talks and students sharing instead of just, the boring lessons.
Sage on a stage, I think is what Denise called it.
Huh, I love that. Yeah, whereas I think sort of the more legacy products are you just give a teacher slides or a textbook and they just go up and they talk, right? So I think products that acknowledge that students are actually like the main character in this story, I think, are the most successful ones.
That's dope. That's a great way to put it. I often tell this story because it's really this skill of making sure that there's the skill of highlighting that there is more knowledge in the room than in the one person presenting is so transferable across any leadership position.
Yeah.
And I say this all the time, even when I was presenting to a group at the Jacksonville Jaguars, their staff. I was presenting at Microsoft, and I say the same thing. I tell the same story, and it's a story about Danique. Danique walked by my classroom one day. Michael, I don't know if you've met Danique, but she don't play. She does not. She give it to you straight. She's the type of person that she coach you in the moment, and the kids are like, "Look,
Yeah.
this love is here. What you gonna do now, right?" And so she came by my classroom, and she walked by, and she looked in, and then she kept walking, and I was like, "Uh oh." And then she came back like 5 minutes later, looked back in, kept it moving. And then my armpits started, sweating. I was like, oh, I did something. What is it? Bad data? What happened? She came back a third time and she said, let me talk to you real quick. Let me talk to you at the door. So I pull up at the door. I'm like, hey, what's going on, Danique? She's like, how come every time I pass by your classroom, you're doing all the talking?
Huh.
And I'm like, because I'm teaching? She was like, how can you be teaching if you're the only person talking? How can you know what the kids know if they don't talk? You're going to find out what they know when the test results are back, and by then it's too late.
Yeah.
And it's funny because she had already said it in family business. She had been saying it for weeks. I need more students talking. I need more students talking. But for her to walk in and say, I'm about to address this head on,
Yeah.
it forced me to go, she means right now. She meant like today. She meant like every day.
Yeah.
And she's like, now bring it back to the rug and do it over. And I appreciated that because I find that companies know the right thing to do, but they just don't do it. And I can say I don't understand why. I think I understand why. But have y'all seen this where like we know the right thing to do? It's not the easiest thing to do, but people don't do it. What do you think is the issue?
Yeah, I think to your point, I think that is so important. People go through school and have experiences where the teacher just talks at them, right? And then they take a test, right? And some people take the test and do well, some people don't, right? But nobody knows until the test happens, right?
I didn't know I was a student until today.
Yeah, and so a lot of students become used to that, and when you ask their opinion, they're like, "What? I have to talk? That's not how it's supposed to be." And so the earlier we can break that cycle, the better off folks will be, because that's what's going to be expected of them in the workplace, right? People are going to want to hear from them, and they have so much to offer. I was at the Marcy Lab School graduation this weekend, and we have young trustees, right? And so these young trustees are nominated by their peers to represent their class in alumni-led, right? And so they serve on our Alumni Leadership Council because our founders from day one felt it was really important for student voice to be at the center of everything we do, right? And so that's kind of one example that of that we believe is really important. I think I've worked at a company that focused on kind of, creating alternatives to college and corporate training. And I've had an experience at that company where the onboarding was not great. So thinking about like all these organizations and companies who like build training programs or build corporate learning programs, like I want to put them to the test. Like, how's your onboarding, right? How's the training, learning, professional development at your organization or a company?
Yeah.
And that would be the first question I ask if I'm buying your product or you're buying your service, right? Let me talk to someone who works there and hear about their onboarding experience or their learning experience or how they've grown over the past year or so or however long they've been at the company.
I love that. Yeah. And it's so interesting. It's a problem kind of everywhere. And it's funny because you can go through the terrible experience, but then when you're in the shoes to do it, you do the same thing that you didn't like. And so it's very interesting. And so I'm surrounded by a lot of people who are actually opening a lot of charter schools. Apparently, a lot of funding came through because we know this administration supports charter schools. I'm not going to say I'm pro charter school, pro public school. I'm pro whatever school is educating children for real, with a high bar. There are charter schools out here that are not doing that well. So thank you. So I don't
Yeah, I'm
care.
trying to figure out how to do it.
Yeah, it's like
Just get it
very
done.
nuanced.
Yeah. So when you think about, there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of people opening schools right now, and you can see them. I'm seeing them like talk about it on LinkedIn, like today, week 3, week 4, and I'm like, well, I already know where this is going. Week 17, we're not gonna hear from you. You're gonna be in the weeds. You're gonna be off of LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So for those people who are navigating all of the different things, do you guys have any advice? Because you've been in the classroom, you've now been on the outside supporting these people. What is like one thing you could say is like, listen, you're not gonna get everything right, but if you can get one thing right in your school year, get this right, what would it be?
It's a good question. I think it's sort of related
I know.
to your previous
Thank you.
question, which was about, like what was about like companies who can like make change, right? Like in the moment. And I think it comes down to like coachability.
Mhm.
Thing even that translates even to private sector companies, right? Is if you want to affect change, it won't happen in the first year, but you need people and employees who are open to feedback and have a growth mindset. And then you also need leadership that is coaching. And I think that's something that Danique did really well, right? As you mentioned, she was a really good coach, but then she also created this culture. And I think it was also the quality of the people like yourself who came in and taught, but we were all coachable as well.
And if we weren't, we was gonna go. She's gonna make sure.
Yeah, a lot of turnover.
Two now, you got to go.
Yeah, and I think that especially for someone who is founding a school, you are not going to get a lot right in that first year. Is going to be brutal, right? You are still just like a company, just like a person. You're still trying to find your identity as an organization and as a school. But like if you're coachable and open to that growth mindset, then maybe you start to figure out what works and what doesn't in that first year. But yeah, and then the other thing would just be, I loved how Danique, and I guess Success Academy generally, had such an emphasis on routines for the first few weeks. And at the time, that totally took me by surprise. For your listeners, we would spend like the first month focusing a little bit on instruction. Yeah, focusing a little bit on instruction, but mostly on routines. And when I first came in, I was like, this is not what I signed up for. I thought I was going to be teaching, but instead you are just like focusing on building routines so your students are comfortable and confident in this new environment. And then it pays dividends when month 2, you don't have to waste so much time trying to get your students between science and math.
I saw like a little thought bubble of like, flashbacks happening over your head. I was like, oh God, that's a very specific example, Chris.
Yeah. We would have races to see who could transition their class the fastest. But
doing anything possible.
Like that. Like building routines, I think helps, maybe more so, it helps students understand what the expectations are. And that is really powerful.
So you can be fair. You got to be fair as a teacher too. Like, what about you? What you think somebody has to get right?
I think you have to create multiple ways to get feedback, right?
Okay.
Feedback shouldn't just come through at the unit test or whatever that is, right? How can you give feedback to people verbally through quizzes, tests? Every day should have, 5 or 6 or 7 instances of a student receiving feedback so they know what to work on and continue working on that thing. Yeah.
I'm sorry,
And like,
5 to 7 in a day? All of my students? Michael, what are you talking about?
Yeah. I mean,
I
feedback can
want
be.
to talk to you more than 5 or 7 times a day with a
It doesn't
direction
just have to be. It doesn't
individually.
even just have to be talking, though, right?
You're
There's
right. You're right. You
feedback can
just
come
said
in
that.
so many ways, right?
Thumbs
Like
up.
yeah,
thumbs up, right? That was good. Thumbs up. It can be a look. It can be proximity, right?
Oh, I
You
love
like,
proximity.
there's so many ways we are signaling good, bad, and further in our actions, in our speech, in the way we model. Like, there's so many ways to give feedback, and people need a lot of it.
That's true. I love that. Go ahead, Chris.
What's nice is I think that also again like translates outside of this because Michael is a big stickler for user research and collecting feedback from users.
Data. That's fair. Okay. Yeah, I will agree. I had a million different ways to let a kid know that they were either in trouble or we were good money. I had a million different ways. I was quick to call your mom and put her on speakerphone if you tried me on the rug. Like, do not play with me. But I was also just as quick to be like, let's call your mama back because you got it together in 20 minutes. All right, let's call her back. Like I was like throwing everything at the wall with some of these kids.
Yeah.
And then there was kids I was like, mom is not the person to call. She's not going to do anything about it. Like, I got to call sensei. I found out you got a judo teacher down the street. He's going to pull up to my door. And I was pulling out all the stops.
You
And
have to. You have
you
to.
have
Do
to. You
whatever
have
it
to
takes.
just juggle, which leads me to my next question, which I love asking this question of all educators. Educators do a lot, and I think everybody says that, but like there's even when you ask us what are all the things we do, we are going to leave out 55 things because there's stuff that you just do off of a reflex. You don't even know that you're doing it constantly. I mean, you're like positioning children in specific places. You're looking ahead at who's coming in their direction so you can anticipate the nonsense. You're blocking and tackling all day and teaching. And so let's say somebody gives you $100 million today for just one school. Where is the money going? And in what order?
Well, I taught in Newark, so that actually actually kind of happened, but not as
Hey.
Doing that.
Mark Zuckerberg donated, I think it was $100 million actually, to Newark public schools, and so that money went to consultants. So I was actually in, well, not all of it.
All
A
right.
good percentage of it went to consultants. I remember being in the classroom, and these people coming in with clipboards and sitting down and watching me teach. When I was a teacher, I still work my butt off, but I was working my butt off, and they were like, I guess they probably expected me not to be doing that, but they're like, good job, you're doing great. And so $100 million, my response to that question would be figure out ways to invest in the community. Figure out ways to uplift the people in the community so they are in better situations, so that they can better, live and survive, right? I think a lot of the challenges that we see in some of these schools have to do with the limited resources and limited opportunities for people in the community. And so how do we invest in those folks? I think that, kind of problems will be alleviated and mitigated from that.
Okay. Chris, 100 million.
Yeah, I think the first thing I would do would be to find someone who lives in that community and is an educational advocate. Because, like Michael mentioned, I think proximity to the community is really important. But I think I would invest in diverse educational resources for the school. So I would have arts and music because I think that is so important. I would have smaller teacher to student ratios because, like you mentioned, so much of it is blocking and tackling and, like, I mean, zone of proximal development. The like proximity of a student to a teacher is so important, and having 30 students in your classroom can kind of be tough. But if you have 15, you can do much more interesting things,
Yeah.
more opportunities for students to talk. And so I would do, yeah, probably like smaller class sizes and also have like more opportunity for arts and music, which are getting cut everywhere.
They are getting cut. Mind you, some of these charter schools and private schools are actually just outsourcing anyway to find it. They're like, we need art programming. Do you know somebody who can come in and do an art program for my eighth graders? Like, they're doing it anyway. It's kind of frustrating that now they have this added to their plate to have to source. I'm
Jeez.
surprised nobody says salaries.
My God, you're right.
You said it. You said it, so we didn't have to.
Boy,
You
yeah,
guys,
we
this
do
is
so
not
much.
going to go well. This is not going to
Because
go well.
Michael
when
and I
it's
aren't
posted.
teachers anymore. We
It doesn't matter. Okay, you're absolutely right, though. All those things do matter. And I'm
no,
kind
but
of
yeah,
like, I can't
salary.
even count to 100 million, but I would assume it could cover all three. I would hope that it could open a micro grocery store that kids could make sure we have food coming from, their parents can leverage that is nearby. Because I know that was always a thing. It was like someone was always running an errand after picking up the student, and it was usually just the most basic of things, but they had to go so far away to get quality food.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with you in the arts. Like, I started teaching cursive again at the end. Chris, you'll love this story. So my last year of teaching, oh yeah, let me go ahead and tell my story because I love my story. So um,
Wait,
I've
tell us
already
about your last year of teaching, please.
So I've quit multiple times. I quit like 3 or 4 times in teaching, but this year I was like, for real, because I got into business school. So there was no coming back. But this particular year, it was my last year teaching these kids, and we were just like, they had ramped up testing. Again, I didn't know you could ramp it up even more. They had ramped it up even more. They had cut slavery out of project-based learning for westward expansion. Like, I was pissed. I was on a mission this year to like do what I wanted to do. I cut all the read alouds and brought my own read alouds in. I was like, we reading raw doll. Forget all this symbolism. We reading the witches, y'all, because it's fun. You know, we're reading the Indian in the cupboard because these are my books, and they loved them. So I was on a mission to do what I wanted to do. In this particular year, we did all state testing, which is a drag. It's 4th grade, so they also have science, which takes place in May. And do you know that they had the nerve to test my kids again with an internal ELA exam? And I was like, for what?
Yeah.
Well, we just want to know.
Mistakes.
No, it's done. The state got the scores. There's no need to do this again. And so I actually refused to work on it. Instead, I taught cursive. And Danique would walk by my class and be like, this is interesting. And then those test scores came out, the internal ones, and my kids were in the red. She was like, so some of you all are teaching cursive, but we have red data. But do you know that when I got to business school and the state exam records came out, my whole class passed both math and ELA, the entire class.
That's amazing.
And they knew how to write cursive. So I was like, take that. But anyway,
But the internal one was the one that matters, Brett.
enough already. Enough. All right. Don't get me started. See, this is what happens when you get educators on a call.
Teacher salaries, yeah. And I think there is actually some correlation between teacher salaries and like that is the single most important thing that you can do as a
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we've written about that on our Substack.
Yeah, and we forgot about it. But shameless plug for our Substack. We wrote about that.
Yeah, so check that out at
What's the name of your Substack?
Substack.com.
We got
Say
a
it one more
Substack.
time. What is it called?
TalentLabSolutions.substack.com.
Okay, we will make sure to link that at the bottom. So I'm going to ask this question before we get into this or that, which is the game at the end. So I was recently talking to somebody about this idea of trust. So I've been pitching this book called The Trusted Leader. And this is some of the programming that I do. It's on the 8 pillars of trust, right? And so they say anything that's actually a problem in your organization or your school is actually all tied to trust, even if you don't think it is. At the very core, people make decisions based on how they feel about you and how much they feel about the project or whatever, right? So trust is at the core. And one of the things that they were talking about was making sure that, let me make sure I have the right one, character, right? And the problem with the issue that comes up with character, or why we see character fail, is because organizations typically reward and incentivize the wrong things. Organizations, companies, schools, school districts incentivize the wrong things. And so I have my answer in my head, but if you think there's anything in the education system that is incentivizing the wrong behavior or the wrong outcomes, is there anything that you can think of that we kind of need to switch?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You want me to go first, or you guys can go first?
What would you prefer? This is your podcast.
Okay, I know. It was just heavy on my mind. So I was like, let me share and then let me get your input.
Yeah.
I feel very strongly about testing
Mhm.
and scores being tied to funding. And then people get mad when teachers cheat. What did you think would happen? My high school is actually closed. I have no alma mater to go to. They closed it down because we had under enrollment. I was at a failing high school. We had under enrollment, and the supervisor who was there, who we all love and adore, he lied about scores. He lied about enrollment. But I get it. He's like, if you close the doors, you close the doors on the 900 kids that are left. And so I get it. And I just feel like I don't know what the solution is, but I do think we are incentivizing the wrong thing when it comes to keeping school doors open.
Yeah.
And or paying teachers. I think teachers' pay may be tied to test scores. I don't know. I don't know how to solve it. I just don't like it.
Yeah. I think you bring up a really good point, which is, too, in this society, we have this perverse funding mechanism where schools in wealthier districts get more funding because it's local property taxes, right? And local taxes and local tax revenue. Whereas it should actually be poorer schools should get more funding for all of the reasons we've talked about over the course of this conversation. But I think you're right. I think test prep also, especially in math, can sort of promote like rote memorization over like procedure. And so I think that can be sometimes pretty frustrating that like a kid could memorize a times table, but they get penalized if they like try and use nonlinear thinking or things like that. But yeah, I would say funding is definitely the most effed up thing, but that we measure and dole out for, and test scores, to your point, like are horrible. The fact that like, yeah, of course schools that have lower enrollment get worse funding. Some like perform worse, and then we give them less funding because of that, and then it's this cycle.
Yeah, and then they eventually close, and then you're like, oh, the schools are overcrowded.
And then people say, that's why public schools don't work. Guess we have to start a micro school.
We back on the
Mark
micro
Zuckerberg, yeah, and
schools. Micro schools got an X on their back today. They caught a stray, the second
they
stray.
did. I love when things catch stray.
Michael, what you think?
Yeah. One thing that I think should be incentivized is just work-based learning. And so I've worked with a few schools and, that have internship programs, right? And so at least, one day a week or twice a week when you're a junior or senior, sometimes it's throughout the whole entire high school experience, students have an opportunity to go work at a company.
Nice.
Right? Or an organization and do an internship or do an apprenticeship at a company or organization. And they get to build skills that are, we try to build in the classroom, but it's nothing like the real world
Gotta go do it.
experience, right? And so having that experience, I think, just puts these people in such a stronger position to succeed in the workplace. And I really love that model.
Very cool. Okay, so it's time to play this or that. So
Well, I love getting.
So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you two populations, and you're going to pick one, and you're going to have an opportunity to give them real, raw, unfiltered, unsolicited advice. They didn't ask for this advice, but you've been thinking about it for a while, and you're like, let me get this off my chest. Okay? Don't mince words, keep it 100. And you guys don't have to pick the same person, or you can pick the same one. This option right now is a new teacher who's debating leaving the classroom, or a new teacher walking into the classroom for the first time. Who would you like to give unsolicited advice to?
I would say the new teacher walking into the classroom for the first time.
Okay. What's your advice?
Yeah, my advice to them would be that and this is something that everyone should think about, like really be firm and have a way to remind yourself about your why. Like, why are you doing this work? And maybe create some reminders, whether it's a quote on the wall or something that you come home to every day, because times will get difficult. It will be challenging. You will want to quit, right? On those really tough days or tough weeks or sometimes tough months. Like it gets
January.
to that point. And so really have a deep understanding of your why and find a way to remind yourself about that why as often as possible.
We love that. Chris, who you got? Debating the classroom or walking in
I'll
with a
give
fresh green eye?
advice to someone leaving the classroom.
Okay.
And I think one of the things that was difficult for me when I entered into my first office job or knowledge economy job was that when you were a teacher, it's the hardest job ever, but what's really fulfilling about it is you see the incremental progress of your students. And that is a really powerful feedback loop that you don't really have when you enter a traditional job, right? I guess you have projects that end, but you don't see incremental progress. And so I would say it's really important to set, quarterly and annual, personal and professional development goals for yourself so that you can create that measurement and revisit it and see, setting a learning plan for yourself and making sure that you are growing because yeah, I mean, there are a million things that are hard about teaching, but that feedback loop that you get from your students is really powerful and it doesn't really exist in many other careers.
First of all, 1000%. I talk about that all the time. That was actually, I think, a struggle of mine was like, what are we doing? Can we
Yeah.
just fix the problem? If something was wrong in the school, Janique was like, figure it out and it better be done by Thursday. Like, when we were able to fix it, but if you're in a big organization, you got to get this person's buy-in. You got to talk to this person. This person's on vacation. When they come back, we'll circle up again. Let's circle back on the
Yeah.
circle back. And I'm like, I'm tired of circling back. Just flip the switch. Yeah, it's a different type of challenge. Okay. Okay, guys. So you are either giving advice to a manager who's building programs for Gen Z talent, or you're giving advice to Gen Z talent.
Man, this is so outside my wheelhouse. Michael, I feel like you live this, which I'll take the other one.
I do live this, and I want the advice from Chris, so I will give advice to Gen Z talent. And my advice to them is don't you dare give up, right? They are experiencing, things. The world we're living right now is has an onslaught of things happening all the time, and it's rough out there. And so I empathize with Gen Z and all they're experiencing and all the distractions that exist that didn't exist when we were growing up, right? I was on TikTok for who knows how long today, right? So imagine having to learn and navigate an administration that is, taking away rights and deporting your family members, right? And you also still need to figure out how to get a job, right? And the market's as competitive as it could possibly be. So my advice to them would be don't you dare give up.
No, I love that.
That's good advice.
All right. Come on, Chris. You can give advice to Gen Z.
No, I'll give it to someone building programs because I do think about this a lot. The last company I worked at was called Guild Education, which was all about upskilling. One of our sort of influencers there, Matthew Daniel, introduced me to this frame of durable skills. You have soft versus hard skills, but this paradigm is durable skills. And I think when you're building programs for learners where the pace of technological advancement is so fast right now, right? We were at least cushioned by the fact that, phones looked dramatically different when we were 12 to when we were maybe 18, but they were still sort of phones. But I don't think you can say the same about anything anymore, right? Who knows what people will be using because of AI in several years. And so if you're building programs for students, teaching them how to use a program or a product, might be irrelevant for that person. And so instead, you focus on teaching them durable skills, skills that regardless of what the tool or program or product they're using will serve them. And those are like, the ability to do like qualitative research on their own, or collaboration, or public speaking. And I'd say like focusing on some of those skills, I think, is really important, because who knows Google Sheets will probably not be a thing in 10 years.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, I love it. It is a differentiator for me that is now gone, right? So that is worrisome as a worker to lose your differentiation, even if it's such a shitty differentiator.
Throw the whole Google Suite away. You didn't hear
Yeah.
one.
Oh no,
I could
that's
not
not like,
live without my Google Suite.
Who's
who's
using
gonna
Google
hire
Slides?
me?
Who is using Google Slides?
I still make
I use
decks.
it every day.
Yeah, Britt.
That's because
no.
y'all can't afford Word, because Microsoft has maybe upped the price. You gotta talk to your
I don't
team.
even like Word, but now you have like Gamma and all of these products which make the deck for you, right? And so there won't even be Google Slides in a little bit. People just type in a prompt and it'll make a custom deck.
Hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
And
They have it hard.
you haven't gone through a fraction of what they've gone through. And also, I'm also kind of off of this whole like complaining about people. If you have the need to complain about somebody, just why don't you solve the problem that you see? What is the gap that you see? Now go help close the gap. Stop complaining about it. Don't get me started.
No, they got it hard. Yeah. Oh my god.
All right, last one. Okay. I'm going to assume you guys have been in some kind of hustle mode. You had to have been, because you left the classroom, had to find a new job. And so I want you to consider somebody who's perpetually hustling all the time. Would you like to give unsolicited advice for a young professional who has a very concrete 5-year plan? Or do you want to give unsolicited advice to the hustler who's like writing this book as it goes? And Mike and Chris, were you a 5-year plan? I feel like your parents kind of made you maybe have a 5-year plan.
I never had anything beyond a 1-year plan.
Okay.
I wish that I had a 5-year plan, and I think a lot of people I knew did. I sort of had a bit of imposter syndrome in like business school, and like I'm from for listeners, if they haven't picked it up, I'm from a very privileged background, but I had no idea what I was meant to do in my life. I didn't know people were going into business school, and so maybe this advice is for the person who is a hustler and writing their book. I had no idea what consulting was. I had no idea what I should be doing when I graduated. I just wanted to pivot out of the classroom.
Same.
I just need to get out of here. Please, God.
Please.
The salary is not high enough. I could have taught forever if they paid me.
Teachers are going to watch this, Chris.
Teachers,
Please, God, is crazy.
It was the best job I've ever had. It was the hardest job.
The hardest job.
If
Best
I was
job.
compensated appropriately to live in New York City, I would have taught for forever. But New York City is a brutal place to live. But yeah, so I didn't know what I wanted to do. And at the time, I was really scared that I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I would tell the hustler, it is like okay to take a non-linear career path. It is okay to like go spend 2 years. I spent 2 years at Samsung, which like shout out to anyone at Samsung, right? Like it did not fill my cup, but I got back into edtech. And so like you can take these like detours and it will be okay as long as you are doing something that feels true to you. Whether it is you need more money to take care of your family, whether it is you want a specific industry, but like that, like it is okay to take these detours. Different moments in your life will ask of you like different choices for your career. And it is like, okay, you don't need the 5-year plan. I would suggest having like a 1-year plan. Like I still don't even have a 1-year plan right now. I'm just like in it.
All right, Chris, we're gonna have to talk about that offline. That is not okay.
You can coach me, but yeah.
I'm definitely the opposite. I had like a quarter life crisis, and I made a plan basically for the rest of my life.
Okay, let's hear
I have
it.
specific goals that I want to hit every couple years, and I've been doing it pretty well, and it's been really helpful in the way I kind of make decisions around kind of how I want to approach my journey. And so I would actually give the opposite advice to the hustler, and I would say make that plan, because if you don't make that plan, someone's going to make it for you, right? And you're going to get pushed in
Ooh.
different
Yeah.
directions and which is okay. Like everybody can and should, do side quests and
I'm
make
gonna go
mistakes.
make a plan right.
But if you do not know where you want to go, you will never reach your destination. And so that's why I think it's so important to.
But maybe the journey is the destination.
Sound like y'all got a conversation to have.
That's right too.
So I sit squarely in the middle, I think. I am definitely, Chris. I remember seeing you go to Stern. I don't know if you went to Stern first or I went to business school first. I don't remember which one. And then I saw Ariel left and went to business school. I talked to her like this spring. And I sit somewhere in between because there are certain people you can tell to fly by the seat of their pants. And there are certain people you should never say that to because to your point, Michael, life will make a decision for them. And so I think there has to be something in the middle. And so I would say if you don't have a 5-year plan, I would say at least know your 3 to 5 values and try to stay right there. Because I see people go after things that actually aren't important to them. Like, oh, I'm doing this. I remember seeing it in Success all the time. And Michael, maybe you have seen it too. Like we had opportunities to grow so quickly at Success. They were making somebody a vice principal and a principal every month. And I was looking at some of these people like, you don't need to be running the school because you cannot manage a box. But those people wanted that title. Right. And I'm not convinced that they were aligning things with their values because really their values were probably work-life balance. And once you become a principal, that's out the window. So I think somewhere in between of like, be open to the side quest, but keep things core to your values and ask yourself, is this a stepping stone to get to that thing that's a value, or are you really sitting in your values right now? Mic drop.
Drop it. Clock it.
Body tea. Okay, stop. Enough. We're going to edit all that out. Okay, guys, that's it. This was really fun. Before we go, is there anything that you guys want to promote about your company, about what you're doing? What's next?
Yeah, we have a podcast that we launched about a month ago. We have a number of episodes coming up, so definitely tune in to the Talent Lab podcast and also check out our Substack.
Woo. All right. Thanks, y'all. Until next time.
Thanks, Britt.